We're in New Zealand! That means we have sailed halfway around the world in search of sustainable solutions.
We have visited 25 countries and documented over 50 inspiring stories about smart ways to live in harmony with nature and each other. Let's take a closer look at some of the highlights we found.
From Amsterdam, we sailed 29,000 nautical miles over the course of 4.5 years to New Zealand. It is literally on the other side of the world from the Netherlands, which means that we are halfway on our trip around the world in search of sustainable solutions.
We embarked on this mission because we knew that our planet and humanity were in pretty bad shape. Climate breakdown, biodiversity loss, pollution, economic and financial crises, and staggering social inequality dominated the news. We realized that at the root of these problems is human behavior.
So how do we change behavior? We need role models and success stories, we thought. Good examples can motivate people to make changes in their lives. So we set sail to find techniques and practices that help us live in harmony with nature and each other. Let us show you some of the 50 sustainable solutions we have documented in the 25 countries we have visited so far.
In Denmark, we learned that the country set some of the strictest regulations on building insulation in the world. It may not be a sexy topic, but good insulation can drastically reduce energy needs. And the less energy we need to produce, the faster we can transition to a renewable energy infrastructure.
An island in Denmark is already generating electricity exclusively from renewable sources. Wind energy covers all of Samsø's electricity needs. What's even more special here is that the community together decided to install wind turbines. Most islanders participated in them and received their electricity and financial profits, which removed any initial resistance to the project.
We try to keep a local culture and a local, you could call it, capacity of decision making, so people kind of still identify themselves as being independent and free people, and we can do whatever we want and at the same time be sustainable as balanced as possible.
The Norwegians make smart use of mountains and fjords to generate 98% of their electricity with hydropower. There is enough power for electric cars and even electric ferries.
In Spain, we saw how solar energy is used to generate electricity on a large scale. The mirrors at this concentrated solar power plant heat synthetic oil that flows through tubes. The hot fluid is then used to drive a turbine that generates electricity. If the hot fluid is stored, it can even generate electricity at night. On the Canary island of El Hierro, we found another smart solution to store renewable energy. Excess wind energy is used to pump water into a mountain lake. If more energy is needed than the wind turbines provide, water is released from the lake to generate hydro energy.
I am at the upper water reservoir. When there is an excess of wind energy, water is pumped up here. And when there's more energy needed, water flows down and hydropower is generated. The water reservoir acts in that way like a giant battery.
Wouldn't it be great if these examples were imitated all over the world? If we reduce energy use, leave fossil fuels in the ground, and generate renewable energy, we can drastically reduce CO2 emissions and limit the worst consequences of climate breakdown.
There is also hope for our food supply, thanks to agricultural initiatives that counter soil erosion and biodiversity loss. In Brazil, we met food forest pioneer Ernst Kutsch, who grows food in cooperation with nature. He started out with a deforested, poisoned and barren piece of land, but now it's like a jungle. His method? Three-dimensional farming, with mahogany trees on top, citrus and cocoa trees in the middle, and vegetables below. The immense biodiversity keeps plants healthy, and constant pruning feeds the soil, so no synthetic fertilizers or agricultural poisons are needed. The result? A food forest that yields more harvest per square meter than industrial agriculture.
Elsewhere in Brazil, Professor Irene Cardoso took us to a natural coffee farm. The families here formed a cooperative to purchase and farm their own land. Agro-ecology techniques such as natural fertilizing and using diverse crops optimize biodiversity and keep the soil healthy. The diversity also provides food sovereignty to the families.
In Germany, farmer Matthias van Meendorf explained how well community-supported agriculture works. He sells his seasonal organic harvest directly to 400 members. They pay a monthly contribution, which gives Matthias a steady income. The direct support from his members makes it possible to pay fair wages, grow diverse crops, include animals in the nutrient loop, and keep the soil healthy.
In Uruguay, we saw the beef industry's ridiculously large footprint. Pastures everywhere. Growing only grass on rich soil is terribly inefficient, which Alda demonstrated. She runs a diverse organic neighborhood farm where all kinds of fruits and vegetables grow. The secret of her success? She embraces biodiversity and takes good care of the soil.
He leído que en 1 gramo hay 1.000.000 de seres vivos, que no los vemos, pero hay que respetarlos igual.
Sí.
In Buenos Aires, the world's meat capital, vegetarian and vegan restaurants are becoming very popular. Residents are discovering that plant-based food is not only yummy, but also cheaper and healthier than meat.
We are at Bio Solo Orgánico, the first organic meatless restaurant in Buenos Aires.
If we all eat more plant-based food, farming would have a much smaller ecological footprint. These promising examples make us optimistic about creating a healthy, future-proof food system that feeds everyone. We also found inspiring examples of restoring ecosystems on which all life on Earth depends.
In Italy, we saw how the survival rate of young trees can reach a stunning 90% thanks to a smart cocoon that waters and feeds the seedlings. The technique takes reforestation to a whole new level.
In Cabo Verde in Brazil, we went diving to learn that artificial reefs can be used to increase marine biodiversity. More fish also mean the local fishermen can catch more. And dive schools can thrive as wreck diving is a great adventure.
In Chile, a farmer is converting grassland back to native forest to allow local endangered wildlife to thrive. A trail attracts tourists and educates them about the importance and beauty of forests and biodiversity.
In French Polynesia, we met an enthusiastic group of young islanders who restore coral reefs through coral gardening. They grow pieces of healthy coral in a nursery before transferring them to damaged reefs. Healthy coral reefs are vital for thriving marine ecosystems, coastal protection, and CO2 absorption.
These inspiring examples prove that ecosystems can be restored all over the world. We also found examples that can fundamentally improve the way we construct buildings, work together, use money, and protect nature.
In the most southern city in the world, Ushuaia in Argentina, we found an earthship building. Solar panels and wind turbines cover all energy needs, and it was built entirely with recycled and natural materials. Rainwater is collected and food is grown inside the building. It's an example worth copying all over the world.
In England, we had the privilege of meeting the founder of the ecocide movement, earth lawyer Polly Higgins. She explained why making the large-scale destruction of ecosystems an international crime is essential to protect our planet.
Criminal law, however, is different because it becomes incumbent upon the state to take action on behalf of its citizens. It also has the potential to put in place different remedies, and it also outlaws that activity, hopefully once and for all.
The ecocide movement is gaining momentum, so ecocide might soon be outlawed all over the world.
In the Basque town of Mondragon, we visited the largest cooperative organization in the world, named after the town. Its employees are owners of the group's companies, which brings democracy to the workplace, leads to better wages and less inequality and unemployment. We can't wait to see more companies making their employees co-owners.
In Sardinia, we learned how Sardex works, a digital currency that exists in digital form and bears no interest. It's a big success on the island as it strengthens the local community and supports a circular, steady-state economy.
Most of the solutions we have described are concrete and can be put into practice. But our sailing journey also made us realize that sustainability from within is perhaps most important.
On Easter Island, we learned that the moai, the famous stone statues, symbolize the mana, the energy and values of their ancestors. This mana still inspires the current generation of islanders to strive for a more sustainable society. Their stories prove that when people are motivated by inner conviction, sustainable behavioral change becomes self-evident.
So now we have to go back to all that traditions, to the community things, to preserve not only culture but environment also.
In the West, our culture is so rushed that there is almost no time left for reflection. One of the ways to create headspace is to go hiking. Slowing down and spending time in nature can do wonders for the mind and nourish appreciation for what really matters in life.
In Ibiza, we witnessed many components of sustainable living come together at eco-center Casita Verde. It is powered by solar energy. Rainwater is collected. They are big on recycling, grow their own vegetables, and have composting toilets. Founder Chris Hughes sums up why he believes everyone can contribute to a more sustainable society.
So if I have to make a suggestion what people could change in their life to become more sustainable, more ecological, whatever, I would say that, as I believe that everybody has a green heart, that they look at their own green heart and figure out how they can show it, how they're going to demonstrate that to themselves and to the rest of the world, because that's what we're looking for now. We're looking for a new breed of human beings that are really connected to the planet and want to live in the kind of world where everybody else wants to live as well.
The sustainable solutions we have discovered are like pieces of a large jigsaw puzzle. As we collect more and more pieces, the contours of an ecologically sound and socially just society become ever clearer. That image can act like a compass to guide our behavior. It's not a utopia, but based on success stories from around the world. At the same time, we realize that the puzzle is far from finished. We will therefore continue our search for inspiring sustainable initiatives here in New Zealand and beyond.
The next challenge is to make all those good examples a success everywhere. Don't underestimate your own influence. Your behavior as a member of a family and a community, as an employee, a consumer, a voter or investor makes a difference. If enough people change behavior, sustainable system change is also possible.
That is why it is so important that as many people as possible take part in the transition to a sustainable society.
As there is a lot to do and time is running out, it really is all hands on deck.
What role do you choose to play?
Did you like this video?
And want to see more? Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on social media, become our patron on Patreon, or subscribe to our email newsletter on our website.